moment when a sports commentator's words can shatter an athlete's world came without warning during what seemed like a routine ESPN segment. Stephen A. Smith, known for his bold takes and controversial statements, dropped a bombshell that left the sports world speechless and sent Brittney Griner's career into a tailspin that nobody saw coming. The revelation struck at the heart of discussions that have surrounded women's basketball for years, touching on topics that most media personalities avoid, but Smith decided to confront head-on. When the dust settled from his explosive commentary, the implications reached far beyond one player's personal life to potentially reshape conversations about identity, athletics, and the boundaries of sports journalism. The fallout from this moment continues to reverberate through the WNBA and raises questions about what information should remain private in the age of social media and 24-hour sports coverage. Stephen A. Smith has built his career as one of ESPN's most recognizable personalities through his willingness to tackle controversial subjects and offer opinions that generate discussion and debate. His show First Take regularly features commentary on current sports topics, athlete controversies, and broader cultural issues that intersect with athletics. Smith's approach to sports commentary often includes personal observations about athletes that extend beyond their performance statistics, to include analysis of their character, decision-making, and public persona. This style has made him both popular with audiences seeking provocative content and controversial among those who believe sports commentary should focus primarily on athletic performance. The veteran commentator has previously addressed various aspects of women's basketball, including discussions about the WNBA's growth, player salaries, and the challenges facing women's professional sports. His commentary on these topics has ranged from supportive to critical, depending on the specific issues being discussed. Questions arise about what information Smith might have access to regarding individual players, and whether his commentary responsibilities include fact-checking and verification of claims that could affect athletes' careers and personal lives. The implications could suggest that sports media personalities face ethical considerations about the scope and impact of their public statements. Sports analysts wonder whether Smith's influence and platform create additional responsibilities for accuracy and sensitivity when discussing topics that extend beyond athletic performance to include personal and potentially private aspects of athletes' lives. Brittney Griner stands as one of the most dominant and recognizable players in WNBA history, with a career that has included multiple All-Star selections, championship success, and international recognition for her basketball achievements. Her 6 feet 9 inches frame and exceptional athletic ability have made her one of the most effective centers in women's basketball. Since entering the WNBA in 2013 as the first overall draft pick, Griner has averaged 17.7 points, 7.6 rebounds, and 2.8 blocks per game while shooting 57.8% from the field. Her statistical achievements place her among the greatest players in league history and have helped elevate the profile of women's professional basketball. Beyond her basketball accomplishments, Griner has been a prominent advocate for LGBTQ+ rights and has spoken openly about her experiences as a gay athlete in professional sports. Her visibility and advocacy have made her an important figure in discussions about inclusion and representation in athletics. The international attention Griner received during her detention in Russia in 2022 elevated her profile beyond basketball to include broader discussions about athlete safety, international relations, and the treatment of American citizens abroad. Her eventual release became a significant news story that extended far beyond sports media coverage. The combination of her athletic achievements, advocacy work, and international experiences has made Griner one of the most recognizable figures in women's basketball, creating both opportunities and challenges as she navigates public attention and media scrutiny. The relationship between sports media and athlete privacy has become increasingly complex in the digital age, with social media, 24-hour news cycles, and audience demand for personal information creating new challenges for both journalists and athletes. Traditional sports journalism focused primarily on athletic performance, team strategies, and game results, with personal information about athletes typically limited to basic biographical details and voluntary interviews. This approach has evolved significantly as media consumption patterns have changed, and audiences seek more comprehensive coverage of their favorite athletes. The boundaries between public and private information have become blurred, as social media allows athletes to share personal details directly with fans, while also creating expectations for media coverage that extends beyond traditional sports reporting. Legal experts note that public figures, including professional athletes, have reduced privacy expectations compared to private individuals, but this does not eliminate all privacy protections or ethical considerations about media coverage of personal topics. The implications of media coverage that extends into personal aspects of athletes' lives include potential impacts on their careers, endorsement opportunities, and personal relationships that extend far beyond the immediate news cycle. DNA testing and genetic information represent particularly sensitive categories of personal information that can reveal details about ancestry, health predispositions, and family relationships that individuals may prefer to keep private. The increasing availability and affordability of consumer DNA testing has made genetic information more accessible to the general public. But this accessibility raises questions about privacy, consent, and the appropriate use of such information. Professional athletes, like other public figures, may face additional scrutiny regarding their genetic information, particularly if it relates to performance advantages, health conditions, or other factors that could affect their athletic careers. The scientific interpretation of DNA results requires specialized expertise, and casual discussion of genetic information by non-experts can lead to misunderstandings, inaccurate conclusions, and potentially harmful speculation about individuals' characteristics or capabilities. Questions arise about whether genetic information should be considered private medical information that deserves protection from public discussion, or whether public figures should expect reduced privacy regarding all aspects of their personal lives. The concept of crashing out in sports and entertainment contexts typically refers to dramatic public breakdowns, career-ending mistakes, or situations where individuals respond poorly to stress or controversy in ways that damage their reputation or professional standing. High-profile athletes face unique pressures from media attention, fan expectations, and public scrutiny that can create situations where personal stress or controversial revelations lead to dramatic public responses that affect their careers and personal lives. The sports media environment can amplify these situations by providing extensive coverage of athlete responses to controversy, creating cycles where initial incidents become ongoing stories that continue to generate attention and discussion. Social media has changed how athletes respond to controversy, providing platforms for immediate reactions that may not be carefully considered and can escalate situations beyond their original scope. The implications of public breakdowns or dramatic responses to controversy can include impacts on endorsement deals, team relationships, fan support, and long-term career prospects that extend far beyond the immediate incident. The intersection of sports commentary and personal privacy raises ethical questions about the responsibilities of media personalities when discussing topics that extend beyond athletic performance to include personal aspects of athletes' lives. Professional journalism ethics typically include considerations about the newsworthiness of information, potential harm to individuals, and the public interest served by reporting on particular topics. These considerations become more complex when applied to sports commentary that may not follow traditional journalistic standards. The entertainment value of controversial commentary must be balanced against potential harm to the individuals being discussed, particularly when the commentary involves speculation or unverified claims about personal characteristics or private information. Questions arise about whether sports media personalities should be held to the same ethical standards as traditional journalists, or whether their role as entertainers and opinion providers creates different expectations and responsibilities. The implications of commentary that affects athletes' personal lives include potential legal consequences, damage to professional relationships, and impacts on the broader sports media environment and its relationship with professional athletes. The WNBA and women's basketball generally have faced ongoing challenges related to media coverage, public attention, and the treatment of female athletes compared to their male counterparts in professional sports. Female athletes often face different types of media scrutiny than male athletes, with coverage that may focus more heavily on personal appearance, relationships, and lifestyle choices, rather than purely athletic achievements and performance. The smaller media presence surrounding women's basketball compared to men's sports can make individual controversies or dramatic incidents more significant for the league's overall reputation and the careers of individual players. The growth of women's basketball and increased media attention has created new opportunities for female athletes, but also increased exposure to potential controversies and public scrutiny that comes with higher profiles. Legal experts wonder whether the different treatment of male and female athletes in sports media creates additional considerations for how controversial commentary should be evaluated, and whether gender-specific factors should influence media ethics and responsibility. The role of social media in amplifying sports controversies has fundamentally changed how incidents involving athletes develop and spread, creating new challenges for crisis management and public relations in professional sports. Platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok allow for immediate reactions to breaking news and controversial commentary, creating viral moments that can reach millions of people within hours of the initial incident. The speed of social media communication often outpaces fact-checking and verification processes, leading to situations where inaccurate information or speculation can spread widely before corrections or clarifications can be issued. Athletes and sports media personalities must navigate social media environments where their statements and reactions can be screenshot, shared, and analyzed by audiences far beyond their intended recipients. The implications of social media amplification include the potential for relatively minor incidents to become major controversies, and for individual statements or reactions to have lasting impacts on careers and reputations. The legal framework surrounding defamation, privacy rights, and public figure status creates complex considerations for sports media coverage that extends into personal aspects of athletes' lives. Public figures, including professional athletes, face higher legal standards for proving defamation than private individuals. But this does not eliminate all legal protections or create unlimited permission for media coverage of personal topics. The distinction between opinion and factual claims becomes important in evaluating the legal implications of sports commentary, particularly when the commentary involves speculation about personal characteristics or private information. Constitutional protections for free speech and press freedom must be balanced against individual rights to privacy and protection from harmful false statements, creating ongoing tension in media coverage of public figures. The precedents established by legal cases involving sports media coverage can influence how journalists and commentators approach coverage of controversial topics and what standards they use for verification and fact-checking. The business implications of controversial sports commentary include impacts on advertising revenue, audience engagement, and the overall reputation of media outlets and individual personalities. Controversial commentary can generate increased viewership and social media engagement, creating financial incentives for provocative content that may not align with traditional journalistic ethics or consideration for the individuals being discussed. The relationship between entertainment value and factual accuracy in sports media creates ongoing tension between audience demand for exciting content and professional responsibility for accurate reporting. Corporate sponsors and advertisers may respond to controversial commentary by adjusting their relationships with media outlets or personalities, creating financial consequences for content that generates negative publicity. The long-term sustainability of sports media careers may depend on balancing audience engagement with professional credibility and ethical standards that maintain respect within the sports community. The broader implications for sports journalism include questions about the profession's direction, ethical standards, and the balance between entertainment and information in sports media coverage. The evolution of sports media, from traditional reporting to opinion-based entertainment, has created new challenges for defining professional standards and ethical responsibilities within the industry. The relationship between sports media and professional athletes has become more complex as coverage has expanded beyond game results to include personal aspects of athletes' lives and careers. The precedents established by high-profile controversies involving sports media coverage can influence how the industry approaches similar situations in the future and what standards are applied to different types of content and commentary. Questions arise about whether sports media should develop clearer ethical guidelines for coverage of personal topics, and whether professional organizations should establish standards for verification and fact-checking in sports commentary. The resolution of controversial situations involving sports media coverage often depends on responses from athletes, media outlets, professional organizations, and audiences, creating multiple stakeholders with different interests and perspectives. The impact of media controversies on individual athletes can extend far beyond the immediate news cycle to include long-term effects on career opportunities, endorsement deals, and personal relationships within the sports community. the development of crisis management strategies for athletes and sports media personalities has become increasingly important as the speed and reach of modern media create new challenges for managing public controversies. The lessons learned from high-profile media controversies can inform best practices for sports journalism, athlete-media relations, and the ongoing relationship between sports media and the professional athletes they cover. Sports analysts wonder whether the current media environment creates sustainable conditions for both quality journalism and athlete privacy, or whether changes are needed to balance competing interests and responsibilities. If you're as concerned about the intersection of sports media and athlete privacy as we are, go ahead and like this video. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think sports commentators should have limits on what personal topics they can discuss about athletes? How do you balance the public's right to know with athletes' right to privacy? We want to hear your perspective on where the line should be drawn in sports media coverage. Then, hit subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss our coverage of sports controversies and the evolving relationship between media and athletics. Thanks for watching.